It is funny that stubborn is such a thing to be proud of, and it's the positive description of it is, well, I know who I am, and who I am is not like other information changing my behavior, because if you introduce me to new information, it'll change me, and I'm not changeable because I know who I am, always have been, always was. And my handshake means something. And when I shake your hand, I look you in the eye, and you can tell everything about a man by the way he shakes another man's hand.
Hello, everybody. We got it. The exact same time.
What if we completely got into sync with each other? Like, it might take 1,000 episodes, but to where we start the episode for at least 5 minutes of saying the exact same thing at the exact same time.
Do you know if there's a million multiverses with a million monkeys on with microphones, they will eventually make a perfect Mind Under Matter podcast in one of those realities? That's how it,
oh hell yeah,
it's just a numbers game. I won't it be funny to what's that actual expression?
Shakespeare, 1,000 monkeys and 1,000 typewriters will eventually recreate the entire works of Shakespeare.
Do you think that they'll start? I was thinking about the future, and hello everybody. Well, this is a Bicycle Day episode. We're going to be talking a bunch about psychedelics momentarily, but I just got to talk with my friend about a thing first. Do you think that there will be as the future changes the human mind? I wonder how much anthropomorphizing will change. Like if there someone like a birder will be like, and you see when the male bird reaches maturity, it starts podcasting for lovers. Just how much weird projecting we'll do on like, oh, that's like that hippo's like calling for an Uber right now.
I'd never heard have I heard the term birder yet? What is a birder?
It's just someone that watches birds.
Oh, I never knew there were birders. Yeah. Sounds like murder, not a birdist.
Oh, well, there's, because they go around, because there's people that study birds, which I'm always scared to say because ornithologists, because I'll always screw it up. But then just bird watchers that go around. You don't know about that big, like annual,
bird watching fest, or ornithologist Adams.
It's the big year. You ever heard of that?
No.
It's where birders get their binoculars out and everything, and then they travel as much as they can, trying to find as many species of birds as they can in a single year. So that's like their big.
Seems like that would scare off a lot of the birds. Seems like you'd want one birder to do it per day throughout a year, rather than like, okay, everybody go out in every direction. Oh shit, all we saw was pigeons and like one sparrow. The rest of them are just circling around in the clouds like, when are these assholes going back home like they usually do?
It's not like everyone on Earth doing it on one given year. It is just like a couple birders having like a cannonball run sort of situation. Yeah, I don't think it's as dramatic as scaring off birds.
Yeah, I guess not every hobby takes off. But what if one hobby, like just statistical anomaly, like everyone got into pickleball for a year, every single human loved it for a year? Like, wouldn't that just create chaos? They would force people like, please go do hockey or something. Go get into video games. There's just not enough courts for every human.
Yes, it would. Look at that. lights just went crazy.
Dimmer switch.
Let's see. Hold on 1 second.
Got some nice neon stickers there.
No, these are just there's just my light settings on the back of this thing. It's just a thing that I grab once in a while. I'll be at a Target or something, or an Office Depot or something like that.
Depot.
And I'll be like, Depot. I'll decide this is the day that I start organizing. You know what? You know what's gonna straighten out my life is getting multiple circle color stickers. It's gonna solve all of it. Everything done. And so I buy like a whole pack of these fucking things, and then I'll not use one ever. If there's a good one, I'll try it for like a week. I'll start putting colored stickers in notebooks for things that will be rendered completely meaningless within weeks. I'll forget what color it was associated with what and whatever else. It never matters.
Oh,
and
weeks is good.
and then about, it's like an annual thing that I'll do. And then the next year I'll be like, I know the colored sticker thing didn't work the first time, but that's only because I didn't I wasn't in the place to implement the colored sticker organization.
I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah, and now
I'm ready.
Now it's just my whole life is going to be covered in different colored stickers. It's going to just make everything so clear and easy for me. It's just going to, these colors will be just like breadcrumbs to success and fortunes that are sprinkled all around my life. And then I'm like, well, never going to use these. I might as well write my light settings on the back of it.
Hey, it still got a career at the end of it.
Because
it wasn't what his parents wanted it to be. I don't want to remind people of stuff in planners. I want to be a planner. I want to be a notebook. You're not big enough to be a notebook. You're peelable and you have bright colors. You're meant to mark stuff. Fuck you, Mom, and fuck you, Dad. I'm going to be a notebook. And it showed its parents. It wasn't the best notebook in the world, but it has some ideas that got remembered. It even made it to the episode of Mind Under Matter that monkeys made in 1,000 years.
Oh my goodness. All right. So
what if the monkeys didn't come up with Shakespeare, but they made an episode of Mad About You or something? It's like, oh, it's so close. It's amazing that it's a cohesive narrative. It's not Shakespeare, but they made an episode of Mad About You with Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt. Maybe that joke hasn't been done before.
That's pretty solid. All right. We're supposed to be talking about LSD, and so like we really got to focus and get on track. Ramin, this is so important.
Yeah. Dilysergic acid was invented by Albert Hofmann in 1938 upon trying to synthesize a form of bird food, which spilled on his seat, causing him to sit down, and a few milliliters of it going up his rectal cavity, which then activated a psychedelic experience on his bicycle ride home, which is why we call it Bicycle Day. Name one part of that was wrong. None of it. His name, Albert Hofmann. The LSD, correct. Got up his rectal cavity.
I think the year was damn close. I think the year was damn close. You know, this is, it's so tricky to do, you know, as I'm older now, more experienced, find myself blabbing with scientists a bunch. I don't get as excited as anecdotal evidence as when you're young. You're like, whoa, and then their lives changed for the better, and oof, that's all it took is that one time they did acid or whatever. But because there's weird stories out. There's some Vice article that made the rounds on Instagram recently. It was like, girl accidentally took 1,000 hits of acid at one party, and she woke up the next day and it was just solved. Like whatever she had going on, she had like some sort of ailment, all fixed, all better. Like you can't just put a story out like that willy-nilly. People will be
because
like,
1,000.
Oh, maybe it's just because I haven't done 1,000 hits of LSD.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm still fucked up. Like
It's kind of like the LASIK surgery thing. I'm pretty sure, like, look this up, whoever's smart in the comments, but I think LASIK eye surgery happened kind of by fluke. Like it was an accident thing. They weren't supposed to hit that part of the eye off, and then that showed them that was possible. So it was like accidental, the first LASIK surgery, and then after that. But if you were to tell anyone like to put lasers in your eyes, you're probably not going to end up with your vision solved.
Yeah.
Same with 1,000 hits of LSD.
Yeah.
It's probably led to more deaths by that much. Not by the substance itself, but by, I don't know, walking into traffic or something.
Yeah. There's definitely, and it also seems in my experience when I would meet people out when I was like doing the Good Trip tour or whatever, there was always if there was someone that like seemed a little off or would show up in my DMs like being pretty squirrely. Usually if they showed up just once in a while, there'd be a person in a city. They would usually like wait a long time, like after the merch, and they would have something. If I was lucky, they'd wait a long time. Otherwise, they would just need to tell me all of the secrets that they've uncovered while like other people are trying to buy shit and have an interaction and stuff. But usually when someone was like a little squirrely, they often had a story of how they took 30 hits of acid, saw this and that truth, and then they've just been like, so I've been doing LSD every day since. Like, oh, you shouldn't. Could you stop? Could you maybe take a breather? You gotta integrate. And that was the tough lesson that I learned as I'm like not mocking other people for something that I haven't done myself, is that definitely didn't seem like the size of the trip was at I'm sure I would never tell anyone to go out and take 100 hits of acid, but if someone was like, there's 100 days and I need to take 100 hits of acid, I would rather them do some really large trips than do one hit of acid every day for 100 days. You know what I'm saying?
Because one hit is actually a lot.
Yeah.
One hit of acid is a lot more than one hit of a joint or of what else? A beer, a hit of beer.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, a hit would be a sip. Let's call it that in that world. And Terrence McKenna described LSD. What it does is basically the same as if a carpenter ant were able to tear down the entire Empire State Building in under 30 minutes. Like that's the amount of changes that little, because it's measured in what, micrograms, right?
Yeah, that was...
A microgram is nothing, and the amount of change it can impact, just that little thing.
One drop. One drop's like about 100 micrograms. That's a usual one hit. Most people are doing one or two hits. That's like Albert Hoffman on Bicycle Day, when he originally thought there had been stuff with ergot and some whole history of ergot that you can get LSD from. It's a fungus that grows on like wheat and various crops. It would actually lead. It was causing all sorts of issues with people, like poor people eating moldy bread, basically. It was that had ergot in it, and it would cut off blood supply or something. And so people would just often like lose fingers and toes and limbs. And so, you know, hundreds of years ago, that's just like sort of what life was like. You just kind of...
No, how dare you? Life was perfect back then. Computers are evil. Today is a dystopia. Not when people were losing their fingers left and right.
Yeah.
I love being reminded that the past sucks, because it's so easy to romanticize. Like, oh, I wish I was living in a castle and I was a blacksmith and I just fought with my sword and had my porridge or whatever. And then you remember, nope, this rules. I love Facebook.
Yeah, there's so we've just improved upon finger loss so much as humans. I'm sure there was a period of time where there's the Industrial Revolution, and even before that, but I'm sure the Industrial Revolution was just like lots of limbs were getting lopped off and stuff in machines and early machines. And because I'm sure it was... What counts as the first thing, you think, as being part of the beginning of the Industrial Revolution? Like, you could say the beginning of the internet is the transistor or something, but what would be like the printing press? Or no, even before the printing press? I mean, I always associated
just having an assembly line.
Yeah, I always associated it with Ford and the assembly line and just the ability to crank things Ford out. But perhaps I'm way wrong, because the start date is 1760. See, don't know anything about modern history, so do not listen to a word I say
Maybe
about
it's
that
the first
in particular. Or especially,
I have no idea what 1760 is. I mean, is it Beethoven? Is it the invention of a crossbow? What's 1760? I mean, 1776 is start of America, so it's pre-America or pre-colonial America.
America was starting to pop off. So yeah, but it was around that time, and I'm sure back then workers were just, if you got your arm stuck in a machine, it wasn't like OSHA didn't come in or whatever it's OSHA I think is the regular, and be like, you gotta put a guard on that machine. They're probably like, stupid worker stuck his arm in the whole machine. Better fire that guy.
I thought you were talking about Osho for a second. I'm like, Osho comes to where people get the things lopped off?
No.
What's OSHA again?
No. OSHA is Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
There we go.
If you work in a factory, there's lots of blabbing on about OSHA regulations and stuff if it's a large enough factory. But before all that, you would probably blame and you imagine, like, you lose a limb in a machine, they're probably just like, you're fired. You are not. We like people who don't stick their arms in our machine and like muck up all our gears and everything with their limbs.
Yeah, you owe us. You're lucky we don't shoot you in the head like a racehorse.
But people would eat. Like they would just not take the mold off of bread, or weren't conscientious enough in circumstances. They would eat like ergot, and then they would just lose fingers and toes. And so you'd go up to someone and be like, how'd you lose your fingers and toes? Bread? Yep. Yeah, ate the wrong bread. You guessed it. Like so many just of us have.
Or over time.
I think all it takes is one good rip of that ergot. But and then it started being used for various things as like medicine for delivering birth or whatever. When Hoffman was originally trying to do some sort of respiratory or circulatory stimulant with LSD, which he had synthesized from it, and one day was just like got a little absorbed into his skin and had like a small experience, And that's not Bicycle Day. That was days before Bicycle Day. Bicycle Day is the first intentional. It was just 3 days later that he decided to,
so the cartoons are wrong.
That he accidentally.
I might be remembering the cartoons wrong, but all the cartoons are like he accidentally got dosed with it, and then he had this magical bike ride home for his lunchtime, which in France they have like 5-hour lunches.
It was accidental in that he assumed that 250 micrograms would just be, like, it's like 2.5 drops of liquid. Be like, oh, that's not gonna do much of anything to me. That's what was accidental. He had no idea the experience he was about to have from it. The first time around, he felt a little like more creative, and he just felt like kaleidoscopy and stuff, and was like, well, that's interesting, but it scared him. But then just 3 days later, he's like, you know what? Dose right in the mouth. That's where we're...
You know what? Regular reality ain't that much either. This isn't that fancy. I'll take the fear. Give me the kaleidoscope universe.
And then he's like, I'm feeling a little off from this new drug that I gave myself, first human ever. Better hop on a bicycle. Like, I'm sure there was fucking chairs at work. He could have just sat down on a chair.
No. There was no such thing as safety back then, I imagine. When did I say again? 1938? Yeah, it's like pre-seatbelts or something.
Yeah.
Pre-helmets, pre-seatbelts. It was ingrained in them to, like, of course you drive under the influence. What else would you be doing?
And
they ride around drunk every day, no matter what. Yeah. Or actually, I have no idea how much he drank or what he did. I'm just projecting all this onto the past because they were more hardcore.
Yeah, I think it was more they lacked information, and then
it could be that. No pamphlets,
but there's
no helicopter parents.
There is that's the thing about toughness. That's of the traits that humans need to advertise a lot of different things. We need to advertise our ability to cooperate, or our sense of humor, or our intellect, or our trustworthiness in negotiations, and we need to advertise our willingness to stand up for ourselves when feeling threatened or whatever. And of the things, and we all get annoyed by various advertisements. So you hear like, oh, these are virtue signalers that care too much about things and want to make mountains out of mole hills, and they aren't actually doing anything. They're just talking. Well, the advertising that annoys me is the tough guy horse shit. And maybe it's because I had a lot of that growing up, but there's just a lot of like, it's like a character trait that someone's proud of to just not look into something. Like, you know what makes me strong is my indifference toward learning. That's what makes me strong. So there was like a lot of that. There's always been a lot of that through history where it's like, oh, back in our day, we did this and that. No one minded when you lost a finger. And it's just like, well, it just sounds like you didn't know better.
Yeah.
Like now our table saws stop. If they sense skin, they stop so they don't cut fingers off. That's not because we're like
cool.
A bunch of sissies.
I didn't even know they had that yet.
Yeah. Not all of
Hopefully
them. But it's because like we've learned more. The world's not worse off for protecting fingers and, oh, we're just wrapping all of ourselves in bubble wrap. Like, no, we don't. We just figured out a nice, easy way to stop sawing our fingers off, and we've implemented it. That's the way things have been going for a long time. I'm sorry you feel like threatened in your masculinity or something because of that, but
it is funny that stubborn is such a thing to be proud of, and it's the positive description of it is, well, I know who I am, and who I am is not like other information changing my behavior, because if you introduce me to new information, it'll change me, and I'm not changeable because I know who I am, always have been, always was. And my handshake means something. When I shake your hand, I look you in the eye, and you can tell everything about a man by the way he shakes another man's hand.
What a weird way to get down to the bottom of somebody.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you get to know more about that person or anything? Nope. Shook his hand. Firm grip. Trust him. I also had one of my best friends growing up was like real macho. It's actually the first person that got me into mushrooms. It was this because he was like, he had a rebellious nature as well, but he moved in next door to me, and we had the same birthday, and we are the same age. And when you're a kid and you're like, oh, and they have the same birthday as me. Well, of course we're best friends. And
yeah, we'll have double the sized party. Your friends and my friends and his friends and her friends.
And it was just always, he just cared so much about toughness. I was more of like the skater kid, like I like to go off by myself and like jump off crazy things and that was like more my whatever it is of like weird masculine advertising when the bird gets mature and needs to start podcasting to draw attention from the ladies.
Like I can't lift the most, but I can do the most.
I can throw myself up against a wall really hard and like withstand the pain. Maybe they'll like that.
It's something. Won't know till we try it. Running on very little information here. So was your friend easily sold as that? Because some people have that. Oh, it wasn't like.
Well, when someone just acts really tough, what you learn is that like when someone really acts really tough, most people are just like, yeah, it's just not worth. It's not worth questioning someone's toughness. Like who's running around wanting to get into fights and stuff, like crazy people. And that's not a like, just like, oh, I'll just see if this guy actually wants to get in a fight, or maybe just assume that he will. And it's just like not worth it, even if they are like a bad fighter, actually, so you can kind of just get away with it. But I remember being like 6 years old and him bragging about how he could beat up Rambo. And
the fictional character?
Yeah. Like Sylvester Stallone. And it was like we were 6. Couldn't beat up
Stallone now.
Yeah. We were 6. That was like the strongest person on earth as far as we knew. And he was just convinced that he could, and that was the way he always was, still is to this day. He's just still that type of person. He just like, if you hang out with him, if he has a few beers, he's probably going to want to do a push-up contest or something. It's just, he's just been that way his whole life. It's hilarious. And because we were like best friends for like intermittently from an early age. I just got to know that character really well, and I can just identify it really easily. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's nothing behind that. That's a facade and a weird one and an annoying one, you know?
Yeah. Do most people pick up on that with him? Like, cause we love confidence. When someone truly is confident, they don't need to fight or, you know, check people or stuff. We love that. It's not like saying that tough guy sucks and then pansy is good. Pansy sucks too, but it's the insecurity we hate of the arrogance of the aggro.
Most actual tough guys, like a bouncer or something like that, they're just chill and just like are like comfortable with themselves, and they know they can like handle a situation or whatever. But when you don't actually have that and you want to talk the game, that's the annoying part. So there's a lot of like making your voice artificially low and like puffing chest artificially, and there's a lot of, and humans are really good at picking up like you know, we're always trying to find little micro tells and like, what's bullshit here? What's this person have going on that's bullshit? So the person rarely knows that everyone else is picking up on like, oh, that's not who you are or whatever. I don't know, but I'm sure we all have things like 100%. That. But that's part of, in case you've ever wondered why I seemingly have if the listeners wondered why I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about like the tough guy archetype, that's a little bit of the backstory. It's just like annoying. I know it.
Oh yeah.
It's
and
boring.
The reason I hate pansies so much is because I grew up surrounded by pansies everywhere, and I was the only tough kid. So it was tough growing up, just being surrounded by that environment.
Always annoying pansies.
Everyone's asking me to lift stuff or like defend the town against people and like fight this guy, and I'll do it, and that's fine. But I don't like that it was just assumed all the time.
But we were both like, you know, rule breakers in our own ways. We both had our little different like personality about it, and like a little rebellious and stuff. And by the way, I've also like tried on like the tough guy outfit before, and it doesn't fit me well. and yeah, when you're like 12 and trying to sort life out, but that's how I don't know, maybe if it wouldn't have been for that guy, I may not have ever done a psychedelic in the first place. It's tough to tell. And now they're like a hyper conservative person. So I got introduced.
What's that look like today? Like, is hyper conservative Trump, or is Trump like, no, Trump isn't one of us? Like, I'm talking Rick Santoris or whatever the regular brown haired Republican suit guy is.
Is Rick Santorum still a thing? I wonder.
Maybe.
I hope that was fun what they did with his name. Me being
what did they do with his name? Called him Santorium?
No, that was, he did something or other about gay people, and Dan Savage got like Urban Dictionary or whatever, or got Wikipedia to call it a frothy mixture of lubricant and fecal matter as an occasional byproduct of anal sex. They got Santorum.
And it's called Santorum.
Yeah, that's on Wiktionary. That's fun.
Yeah,
and it kind of messed up the guy's career, because then when people Googled it was
it's classic little brother or little sister, like little sibling tactics, or any sibling tactics. If something is annoying you, it's going to happen more. So if you don't leave a group alone and they want to be left alone, you're going to get extra special treatment the way you don't want.
Yeah. So what did you ever share, because I think I shared my first LSD story, which is like vague and I barely remember, other than I saw the same Mr. Ball, my old middle school math teacher, who is my spirit animal, who I saw the first time I smoked weed, and then again the first time I did LSD. But I don't remember if you shared your first LSD.
I don't know if it's that interesting. Let's go through it. I'll take some of the fun parts out of it. My favorite part of it was that it was.
You're gonna take
I got it from
fun parts out. Just get down
no,
to
not part out, but. No, I'm gonna take the fun parts out to say.
I thought you're like, oh, I want to take it seriously, so we'll take the fun parts out of it. Get down to the.
It was Tuesday. The sun was out. Oh wait, that's kind of interesting. The chair was there. That's not interesting.
I'm gonna delete all the fun of the story and then present it.
I should pitch a tales from the trip about that and see if they bite. Like, I'll pitch a very boring story and let's see if they're polite or if they're like really want to weed out the boring stories. Like, if I can get the most boring story on Tales from the Trip and they have to animate it and everything, oh boy, that would be funny. But on with the story. I was going to say I got the dilysergic acid, or whatever the full name of it is. It lysergic acid or dilysergic acid? I bet it's just lysergic acid.
Fuck if I know.
Because why would it start with the L if it wasn't just L?
Yeah, I never remember such things. I am. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you're doing the just regular like Jordan Peterson talking points.
Oh yeah.
Like, a lot of people look stuff up, but that's not what they do. They point.
Lysergic. Yeah. Yeah. I had someone recently, they were watching a video of Here We Are, and they were like, why don't you pay attention to your guests when they're talking? I'm like, oh, I was writing. I was listening intensely and writing down notes of what I wanted to expand on, of the things they were telling me. But if I'm not like looking at the camera, some people are like, what is happening? So anyhow.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to pick up on. They must have been really watching.
Yeah.
To pick up something like that and then assume. Yeah. But those are the
LSD.
Oh yeah, so lysergic acid. I took myself on the tangent, but I got it from a friend whose name I should not say.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. I won't say the name, even though they probably don't care.
Maybe
but
the
who knows?
first
Maybe they work
letter of their name or
D.
Something. Okay, cool.
And then people are going to go, Duncan Trussell? Sure. But not really.
People love to do. Every time I have a DMT story.
It is a Duncan, though. Interesting. I won't say which Duncan.
I'll be.
How many Duncans do I know? Goddamn.
If you look through. So I have popular Tales from the Trip videos about DMT that have like millions of views. And if you look through the comments, I tell about the first time that I did LSD, and that it was my MC for the week introduced me to it, and everyone's like, was the comic's name Joe Rogan? Whoa, solved it. Like, no, it's not. I know it's like the one association that you make, but anyway.
So I get the LSD from Duncan, who I asked some question to the note of like, oh, is it good? Is it powerful? Is one hit enough? That kind of thing. And then he just goes, oh yeah, it works. And it's extra funny if you know the voice. I don't know if it's good a voice, but the way he said it like that. And me and my girlfriend take it, and it's a while, and we're wondering like, oh, I don't know if it's going to kick in. I don't know what this is going to feel like. So does it work? And then of course, an hour in, after the world becomes an impressionist painting, like you totally get impressionism, or at least I did that point. And I had done mushrooms before, and I was expecting it to be like mushrooms, and then instantly I realized that, oh, mushrooms is the back-end developer of the universe, and then this is the graphics department of the video game.
Yeah, that's
thing. Like, they're not about the epiphanies. Yeah, there's epiphanies, but it's not like about, oh, it's all of it is everything.
It's all.
Yeah, it wasn't that. It was just like, oh, impressionism is so cool. It's like, this is really orange. Like, before it was orange, but now it's just, it's oranging at me so much. It's screaming how orange it is, but not in a painful way, like in a fun rock concert type of screaming how orange it is. And then as soon as all that kicks in, like, we look at each...
Encore! Do the orange song again.
We look at each other as soon as it starts to kick in, and we go like, oh yeah, it works. And we start saying, oh yeah, it works. And that phrase has carried on for like almost a decade now with stuff to refer to whether something is good or not. Like, oh, how's that donut from that place we just got? Oh yeah, it works. So that became the established phrase for thing being.
Oh man,
for thing being good.
Now I want to scoop that up into the MUM universe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we can do that. We can do anything with it because it works. And it was not that eventful in terms of, oh, and then we went out and drove and didn't do anything dangerous. We stayed in, watched this documentary called Game Developer. No, that's it's called Indie Games, I think it was called. And it had the game Braid, it had the game Super Meat Boy, and it had Fez, Phil Fish's game. And like, we just got really attached to the stories of these guys discussing making the game, and they're crying and stuff. And we're also laughing at the fact that they're crying because it's like, it's just a game. Why are you crying about the game? And, you know, we had a porcelain skull that we had somehow acquired, and we put black lights on it and painted it with blacklight paint.
Fun.
And took photos of it, which later, like, it looks okay, but at the time it's like, we just created the best photograph in the whole world. It's the greatest thing ever. And then as it starts to wind down throughout the night, we like make some tortillas, and I'm just kind of standing there not knowing what to do. And she turns to me and says, it's okay, you're not supposed to be doing anything right now. And that became an art later, actually. That's a thing I drew from that phrase, but that became a phrase that like stuck with me of, I'm not supposed, you're not supposed to be doing anything right now. You're always thinking like, oh, what am I supposed to be doing? I'm in the wrong place. I should move here. Man. I should place myself there. And that became a solid realization. And then we concluded, because it makes you stay up late. If you take it in the afternoon, you're going to be up at 4 in the morning. At least I was.
You got to do it like in the morning.
And we're trying to like, we can't fall asleep. So, what do we do? We'll just watch stuff. And we put on Pinocchio, expecting it to be really fun. And it's kind of slow. It's really slow. We kind of turned off Pinocchio. Oh, it's expecting this to be better. Like I remembered it as a kid, but they've upped the standard in a while. And that's all I remember for now. But so much of it is tough to describe because it's the appreciation of the visual, and it doesn't change. Like this orange is still the same orange, but you see it in the light of it being the best. Just you really appreciate color and visuals and what. Yeah. Maybe blind people would still appreciate. Maybe you see colors in your head if you're blind. I don't know what it's like being blind, but I bet they still appreciate colors even if you're blind.
Yeah. Depending on the blindness, I'm sure. I love that. That's the boredom lesson is one that I've been trying to integrate for years now, of you don't actually have to be doing something, because it'd be one thing if you felt the feeling that you were supposed to be doing something and then you did something that was like in your interest and productive or whatever. But a lot of times that feeling just drives you to like, oh, I should like waste time with this thing because then I'll be doing something. It's because it's just so hard to just sit. It's just so hard to just sit still and not do anything. That's a good LSD insight, especially on a first one.
Yeah, it was all good. And I don't think I've had a bad trip. I've had bad moments during a mushroom trip, very brief for a few minutes, but I've never had any bad LSD anything. Knock on wood. I'm sure I could induce it. Anyone can be induced anything. You could go put me in, a prison or something and dose me with it and show images of war crimes that I committed, but I forgot that I committed or something.
Yeah.
But so far, all good experiences.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make you want to do it the next day either. It makes you I should just only speak for myself. If I ever say you or one or anything, I'm only talking about me. Duh, with everything. Like I said in previous episodes, nothing I say is English. Nothing. It's all random mouth noises. And also I'm hereby legally protected from any bad things. In listening to this, you're agreeing to never do anything bad to me. That's legal.
Even though the words coming out of your mouth right now are just mouth noises. And so is the disclaimer. So, but yeah, it's all.
So I was saying you don't want to do it the next day. You're filled with joy and drive and appreciation to be your normal self, not like, oh, I got to go back to the impressionist painting world where my pupils are dilated and I can't help but appreciate everything. You kind of get a little exhausted from appreciating. Yeah. It's a full-time job appreciating everything. It really is. The carpet, the chair, the door, the sun, the clouds, the trees. It's enough. I want to appreciate one thing.
Yeah.
Or nothing.
I was looking at some old videos of people doing LSD and, lab settings and things at the early when they were trying to figure out what the heck to use LSD for. Like James Fadiman who was in Psychonautics, my documentary. I think he was the one that did the study where he's just like, let's just get a bunch of scientists together. He just had a group of scientists and engineers and things all just come in with like, what's a problem that's been frustrating you lately? And then just gave them acid. And they just sat on acid and thought about that problem and solved a bunch of cool things. Yeah.
Didn't the double helix come from people that did LSD, or they hadn't visualized it as a double helix until they took it and then that clicked? Something like that.
Yeah, but I think the reality of that story is that they discovered the double helix before they had done acid, or they were close, or they were really close, or something like that.
And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. There, it's probably that, because I think it's rare that the idea just comes out of nowhere at once. It's just on the bench, and it's been building up, and it's like not quite there yet. Almost okay, 80% complete, 87. Oh, it's been stuck at 87 for a while. Should I restart? Oh, 88. Cool. Okay, 89, and then the acid maybe got them straight to 100 from 89.
If acid did more of that for me, because that's what mushrooms is like for me. If acid did more of that for me, if it was more of an ideas machine, or catalyst, I would be more into it than I am. Usually it's just, for me, like what you describe, puts a little sparkle on life, which is great. Love a little life sparkle.
Little is understatement.
Yeah.
Everything roars like the sun.
I wouldn't say it roars for me as much. I often find myself doing pretty functional things. I remember once I decided to, speaking of these, once I was on acid by myself at the old dad pad that I lived at with Dave Waite and 3 other comics. And Dave Waite. And I just was like, I'm just going to start doing things that I want to do more often. I always think of psychedelics at least as I get older, I'm less interested in the experience of like, and then I saw a thing and there was the symbol. And if I could just remember the symbol, it's the key to all of it. It's more about like, how can I use that neuroplasticity to make some like subtle changes in my life in terms of organizing. So I was literally doing like crap like this, organizing some stuff. And then we had a serious ant problem that no one was doing. I was the clean one in the bro house, and that should never be the case in any situation. And so I just decided that I was going to
everywhere,
everywhere,
kitchen, bathroom.
Yeah, mostly the kitchen. And I decided that I was going to like take care of it once and for all. And so I went to Home Depot and got ant spray, and I just sprayed the whole house and eradicated our ant problem and put ant poison and stuff. I just got on acid and just committed genocide to just a whole bunch of
I've done that, but not with ants because there wasn't ants at the time, but I cleaned the garbage can completely, like, you know, polishing the outside. It's shiny. Yeah. Cleaning the fridge. And it's because you want to, not like because, well, if I'm going to be a good person now, because I've learned to be a good person, I'm going to go be a good person. No, you just want to. Yeah. You're a vessel of betterizing. Improving. I'm using my appendages and my brain and my focus to betterize. And not as a like, well, you better betterize for me later because you owe me.
Yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it. A betterizer.
Betterize everything. I can feel like I don't know if it's called synesthesia when you can. I know seeing colors as seeing sounds as colors is synesthesia, but when you can hear color, is that also synesthesia? Because I'll hear the roaring of like, you know, the oranges and the reds and the
just
yellows or like green will be like kind of a
there's synesthesia where people will like hear the word vacuum and smell bacon or something like that. You know, it's just crosstalk between the senses. And psychedelics do that quite a bit, but that's people with synesthesia just have that on the natch. It must be weird. And like, hey, did someone just say trombone that I didn't consciously hear? Because suddenly I'm smelling cotton candy.
I've been fascinated with Tourette's recently, like I said in a previous episode, and like I'm learning about there's some people have trigger words and that'll tie to an action, and there's a streamer that kind of owns her tics and just lets them happen. And you know, if it's bad racial slurs, like she'll cover her mouth, she'll like get in front of that, like doesn't want to let that stuff go, but we'll just out of nowhere someone will say trampoline, then she'll just be like, I fucked Hitler, I fucked Hitler. And then just moves on with the
we should do a Tourette's episode since you've been going down this Tourette's.
I was wondering if you had talked to anyone.
Tourette's wormhole. I could just get a researcher on Here We Are and go down a little rabbit hole, and then you have your rabbit holes that you've been on, and we can fucking join in the fucking Tourette's middle somewhere and talk about it.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's because I recently learned that it doesn't necessarily mean that what you're thinking comes out. Right. Like a tic is not necessarily oh, that's a thought. That it's just a tic. It just comes out. You might have not been thinking any of that, and it just comes out, and it's not always swear words. It's not always whistling, but just what is that? What is that broken dam of things spurting out? And it's just undeniably hilarious. Yeah. I know it's also serious mental concern, disability equal. Yes, but
if you're able to make a living
because
and
so
embrace
much
it on Twitch,
even better,
you know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I'm hoping
because we're all holding back so much. Like we have etiquette, and when someone just breaks that like loudly, it does something to you that I don't know. It's so funny.
Yeah. I hope that we should be able, I hope that we get to, like, we should be moving toward the celebration of diversity, not the like pretending of like everyone's the exact same thing and there is no, like pointing out that something's different is also saying that it's bad in some way. No, not always. That's not what people are saying necessarily. We're different. We're different people. We're different boys. That's why we put together a podcast to showcase our differentness. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. It's just it's tough to communicate in the small headlines of things, right. And it's easier to create the controversy than to accept it. But yeah, I think most people do get on board with that. Yeah. Speaking of psychedelics, we have a fun announcement regarding so I just confirmed Sophia Rockland is going to be able to make it to the Mind Under camp out, and we're going to do the final Head Talks show at the Mind Under Matter camp.
Close the circle.
Yeah, we're gonna close the circle at
closing the loop.
Yeah, we're gonna bring all of the blotter paper.
That'll set the timeline back.
Poster. Yeah, and so it's the only way to see it. It's gonna be awesome. She was. I just had her on Here We Are recently, and she's an incredible communicator, but she's been back and forth about how much, like, she's young, like what she wants to do and how much she wants to be like a public figure in whatever space and whatnot. And so she's always gone back and forth with like whether she wants to write another book or just abandon like that stuff completely and do some of the advocacy stuff that she does. She's like talking with people.
Which one's the dark side? The book? Dark side is the book and being a public speaker, and then the light side is going and advocating thanklessly.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she does a lot of environmental things, like working with like it's not unusual for her to chat with people like at the UN.
Use
or
your ego,
else.
Sophia.
Yeah. So either way,
only then.
And my obviously, like both of our, at the time she didn't have a job. She does have a job now, and then I'm like figuring out what I want to do in terms of psychedelic communication. It was just going to be a little tour to promote her book and get my like Head Talks was meant to be the springboard to eventually figure out how to do little pop-up festival-ish type, like combining art and comedy and music and stuff in cities. And now now we're figuring it all out with the camp out and doing other things. Here's a thing that listeners may also be. I often don't share news like this before it's like confirmed and everything, but I have been working on the possibility for almost a year now. I've been working on the possibility of potentially bringing a psychedelic comedy show to a residency at a place in Vegas. So I would have a regular show there and then be able to tour less frequently and have a stable show that I could do. So I might already have an outlet for the psychedelic things that I care to say. And at this point, I'm like, and that's all the blabbing about psychedelics I care to do. Like, just go to a show once a week, once or twice a year, talk about it on here or Here We Are. And then, because to me, psychedelics are like a tool to unlock all of that curiosity and putting connections together and expand on your interests that already exists and figure out how to like do better in the world and whatnot. That's what psychedelics mean to me. And Whereas when you get into psychedelic communication, people are just like, all right, you're the psychedelic person. I'm going to come to you with all my psychedelic questions. And why are you talking with scientists about insects? Why aren't you talking about LSD right now? It's just a whole mess that it's just not worth it. And it just makes me lose interest in it. And so it's a way that I'm trying to like balance what my relationship is with psychedelic communication stuff. But all that being said,
as long as you're still interested,
I mean, it's not even, it's weird because I'm not as interested in psychedelics just because I've like gotten to get it all out. But they're also just something that has such tremendous, incredibly wonderful influence on my life. And it's just came to my attention how many problems there are within the psychedelic community, within like shady wellness practitioners and stuff and grifters. And then there's this in every single occupation, but psychedelics tend to be in like the unregulated world, and in the unregulated world there's like, it was fine if I went to a festival and be like, oh, that's cute, that person thinks like blasting tobacco up your nose and making your brain feel like it just got shot by a shotgun is medicine. Well, I think this medicine's hilarious.
It's not,
and I'm going to like shoot it up my nose. I mean, I've done plenty of hape. I don't, whether you're calling it medicine.
I mean, it's not going to cure your cold, but
like, I don't know what it's meant like to do.
You could say like, because a medicine is, you could describe a medicine as a tool to change a state in your body from one to another. And then if the hape gets you to exhume like a lot of fluid in your nose, like if your nose is stuffed up, doesn't it like make a lot of that come out?
Yeah.
So you could say it's a medicine with that. And then the side effect is it also makes your brain feel like it's in a bar in the 70s and makes your lungs cloud up too. So side effects include this weird thing, this weird thing, this weird thing, but it is shown to reduce snot in your nose for the next 15 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I think just things like that are sometimes a little oversold.
Of course.
So, and the word sacred always makes me skittish whenever something's like, don't question my sacred medicine. I'm like, well, if you can't question it, then
it's sacred medicine
meaningless to me.
But just with like
and Albert Hoffman
when people
called it sacred
weird
medicines and stuff too, by the way. It's like there's a long history of calling it that, and it seems like very divine when you're having the experience, but I don't know.
Yeah. But with medicine, like sometimes people are like, well, that's not a medicine, but these things are medicines. And or with like art, like that's not art, this is art. But I tend to see like, no, you can call everything art or medicine, and it technically is art and it technically is medicine, but there's different levels of it and different strengths, maybe is a way to put it. And also about the psychedelic community becoming not lasting, like, having its having a surge in the 60s and then going back down again, then coming back up like the late 2010s and then like going back down again, like getting some weirdness associated with it. It reminds you that it's such a personal thing.
It really is. Yeah.
So many of us want to be like, oh, this is great, let's build a group around it and make a dogma for it. That's the idea, right? And then you do it again and remember like, oh right, that stupid dogma we built around it isn't the answer either.
And I don't think it's like right for everyone all the time. I remember being on a date with a girl
nice,
like years ago.
I remember talking to this girl once. Nice.
I think it was like 2019. I think it wasn't that long before the pandemic. And she was like she was just convinced that the only way to save the world was for everyone to be dosed with LSD, and you just have to put it in the drinking water or something. That's the only way to say it. Like, she literally thought it was a good idea to put LSD in public drinking water. Like, that would be a good idea, which that's a thing that like someone could figure out to do if they were like crazy enough or whatever else.
Yeah,
potentially. And I couldn't convince her. I'm like, that's the dumbest idea. No, you don't just dose the masses without telling them. That's an insane thought to have.
Yeah, and first of all, try it with 50 people and see if not one, if you can get it with 50 people and still not have chaos, like then maybe expand to 100, but don't go from you to everybody.
Yeah. Meanwhile, that person's now like an anti-vaxxer. Like, I can't believe they're trying to inject us with these things against our will and mandates. Like, oh, I remember our conversation when you tried to poison civilization against their will with your magic medicine. But there's a little too much dogma in the community, and then there's also like when you're young and psychedelics have this impact on you, you're like, oh wow, psychedelics will make you care more about others. Well, they don't do that for everybody at all. Some people do psychedelics and they're like, that's how I could build a better bomb. You know, like they're problem solving, you know, they're catalysts for like the shit that you have going in you. So I don't know. So I still like talking about them. I guess most importantly, it's just never been my entire psychedelics were meant to be like a way to get people into hearing me blab about perception and consciousness, just like I talked about like mating behavior, or like used breaking my feet to be like, hey, I broke my feet. Isn't that crazy? Now let's talk about the evolution of pain. It was just a way to introduce people into science in an accessible way. It was never meant to be like, oh, we should, hey, will you just keep talking about breaking bones for the rest of your life? Like, no, that was just like, that was the means, not the end of where I was going. But anyway, so
yeah,
that's
it's like when artists have it's like when a band puts out a record different from the last one and people want them to stay as they were, because then that solidifies their reality as, oh, this person is that character forever. Mm-hmm. I can, that's grounded. I can stand on that forever and know that 20 years from now, they'll still be the psychedelic guy and they'll still have the opinions I projected onto them, and they'll be my friend. And I can go up to them at the show and cut in front of everybody else, and they'll listen to my ideas, and together we'll solve badness this afternoon.
I do want to solve badness with new friends. Absolutely. It's just...
I don't want to be your king. I just want to solve badness, and we'll all be equal, but I'm the one solving it. And I've got the architectural blueprints in my head. You just have to listen to me for 7 hours. No one's fixing anything. It's going to stay the exact amount of broken. That's how we like it, damn it.
That's how we like it. I do. I love the... I love when psychedelics like get you to know yourself a little bit more too. Yeah. I definitely care more about that than like what was the outer thing. Like I liked talking about DMT, but I've always been like, okay, I saw a purple lady and there was a gate and there was this and that. Now, here's why I think I had that experience, because consciousness works in this way, which is basically survival of the best dream is like what breaks through, and it's part of how memory is formed and consolidated, and you just normally don't get access to that. And most people are like, but talk about the Ferris wheel in space again. Like, oh, I don't actually think there is a Ferris wheel in space. You weren't listening. And so because of that, then because it's like you had special access to a different dimension, then some people are like, oh, and then I've also unlocked the thing, and that's the only person I can talk about it with. And some of that stuff just gets a little troubling sometimes out there. Of
course.
Yeah.
And it's going to be funny when you talk to the purple lady again, and she's going to be like, you don't really believe all that crap you were talking about. It all be in your head, do you? And then you're going to believe that. And
exactly.
I don't think it's because I've said this before, I think, but just how I don't believe it's in the head, and I don't believe it's the magical thing. I think it's a paradox. It's even crazier than this or that. It's like some hyper object of like, yeah, the Ferris wheel is real, and it's in your head, and it's real, and it's in your head. And that's the only way I can condense it into English words at this moment. But it's wild out there.
It is wild. That's absolute. There is, especially when it comes to, see, I've just never had an LSD experience that's made me be like, what the fuck was that? Where a lot of people have, and I hear report, and I believe that person. I'm sure like every psychedelic just hits each individual. I know people that have smoked DMT so many times and just never broken through, never had the experience, had like, hear the stuff I talk about. They're like, nope, I guess I've just like never experienced any of that. Whereas people that have broken through
and they
are
held
like,
it.
Oh, that's not Shane exaggerating. That's underselling the situation. Yeah, I guess, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of like not smoking it right or whatever. I mean, DMT is absolutely the single most interesting experience that I've ever had in my life. I don't proclaim to know exactly what it is or have all the answers about it or anything else at all. And I've also I've gone down the path of like, everyone needs to just, once everyone's studying DMT, we'll figure it all out. I don't know if all the mysteries are in there, but whatever it is, like, one way or another, we need to figure out what the fuck this thing is. And I still believe like a lot of that, like absolutely. I think psychedelics need to be bare minimum go from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 so that they could just be researched really easily, because Schedule 1 makes it near impossible to research. And then that's bare minimum.
Yeah.
If without getting into a whole like war on drugs and cognitive.
How many schedules are there? Five,
I think. Yeah.
So it's like gum with caffeine in it. 5.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, what's 5? What's the lowest? And we know 1 is like heroin and fentanyl, and I think marijuana was Schedule 1 for a while, weirdly enough.
I think it might still be.
Or maybe 2.
The federal government.
Weird.
Yeah, I think it still is.
Yeah, all that stuff is dumb.
Yeah.
But also, in between putting it in the water supply and putting you in a cage because of it is the sweet spot. That's what we want.
Yeah.
We want to put it in half the water and only put you in a cage during the daytime?
Yeah.
No, the nighttime.
Yeah, it's all complicated and a mess. So we'll continue talking about psychedelics in the future, and I do like talking about them, and I'm happy. And it's also, I guess it's like the only thing that say we release this episode and say someone wants to like write a bunch of their experiences and stuff in the comments on YouTube of this episode. That's awesome, because it's an episode about psychedelics. And so I would hope that people start having conversations about psychedelics, just like if we did an episode about sloths, I would hope that people start having conversations about sloths or whatever and sharing different like sloth facts or something like that. But when I'm doing an episode about sloths and then people are like, let me tell you about how DMT is going to save the world and write a long thing, I'm like, you might be obsessing a little bit at the moment. And like, I think that might be cause for concern. It's like, it's not that what you're saying is wrong. It's that like the context is inappropriate. Like we're having a conversation about a different thing right now. Like if we're talking about psychedelics, let's all blab about psychedelics. But if we're not, we're not. So, you know, and so there's been that too. That's like a thing that I've been a public psychedelic communicator for 7 years now that I think about it, which is crazy.
God damn, boy.
And so it's like you just start to notice patterns after a while. It is a lot of years. So anyway, but back to good things.
I mean, there's been good that came with that, but there's the bad. And I wanted to say that a comment should never be the size of a post. A comment should be a few emojis, or if you've really, really got to say something, like maybe 2 or 3 sentences, but don't write paragraphs in a comment. You write your own post as that, and then other people will come to that long post if they like it.
Yeah.
Why are comments so big?
I don't know. I've enjoyed, we've had some big comments on YouTube where like Emily,
the relevant ones.
Yeah,
if it's like we want someone to expand on something.
Yeah. If it has to do
out
with
of the blue, not out of the blue, your life story. That's the whole
problem. Out of the blue comments that have nothing to do with anything is like if we're having a conversation and someone just walked over and started ranting about elephants, and like, whoa, we're actually all just talking about pickleball here. Like, why are you? It's just odd, you know, and like out of context. And so when that happens, usually I'm like, I wonder if this person's like in a place right now and, you know, having some sort of situation and maybe needs a break to integrate.
Very likely.
Very likely. So yeah,
it is fun, kind of, that, I mean, it's terrible and fun, but that anyone can join the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could write something to The Rock or Oprah or Tom Cruise or something, and they probably won't engage with it, but they'll probably see it. If I'm really unhinged, they probably see it.
Someone will show it to them.
Yeah. And you can just do that, like, without, I don't have to build a phone or even understand any component of the phone. Yeah. I can just, hey, I showed up at your digital doorstep to say something.
But most of my LSD experience, I think the most magical thing that ever happened on LSD was, I remember being young and on LSD, and I used to do this quite a bit. There'd be like a party and we'd be tripping, and I would just strap on some rollerblades and just go off by myself. I like tripping by myself so much. So that's, even if everyone else is, I'd be like, I'm going to go over here.
On rollerblades?
Yeah. And I would go.
Rollerblades.
I wasn't going to say
I can't help it. I'm going to strap on some rollerblades and go invade the Ukraine. Just kidding. It's not called the Ukraine anymore. It's called Ukraine. The is not part of it. Only the United States has the. What other country has the? I think it's just the United States, not the Ukraine, because that's incorrect. But go on with rollerblades.
United States. I remember specifically being at this. I went up on, there's this outdoor stage that I decided to, it was like I was rollerblading around, and there's this park, and there was there was this it was under construction or something. But there was this stage that I used to like jumping off of and stuff on my skates. And so I went up there, and then I just got deeply paranoid. Like I heard some voices, and I thought it was like cops, and everything's just cops when I'm on LSD once in a while. If you just start, because I think I was 19 or something at the time. And I'm like, oh my God, it's probably cops. And so I laid down to wait it out until whatever people that I don't even think there were actually people there. And I remember looking up at the sky, and there was this the sky was just covered in clouds, and there was just one perfect circle exactly above me that I was right in the center of, and it was colorful. It was just this opening in the sky, and it was just breathing in, and I swear I could just feel my body levitating. And then I'm like, oh, but cops, I better stop levitating into the UFO. There's cops around. But that was the only time that I remember there being like, whoa, it feels like I'm having like a really, every other time I've done LSD, like mushrooms can have all sorts of things like that for me. Ketamine, the strangest. If I did ketamine right now, I would just think I've been in this room always. There's never been anything outside of this room. It's always been here. I'm just living in some simulator sort of thing. But LSD,
nice.
Yeah, just a little glimmer on the world. I remember, here's a fun story that will, by the way, on the Mind Under Matter YouTube channel, in the musical discoveries episode, we talked about my experience with Cambo, where I burned my arm and then it made me puke. That thing, speaking of medicines. And I told a fun story about it and how I had done it on Psychonautics, but it ended up on the B-roll. We got some of that B-roll and McCool stitched together so you can see some behind the scenes from Psychonautics on there. And I know you need to go in a couple minutes.
Cool.
But
oh no, we got 10.
We got 10. So people can put that out there.
Yeah.
But did I ever tell you the story of the Uber ride that I took with Steve?
Darth Plagueis the Wise. What? Go ahead. I interrupted you with Darth Plagueis the Wise because that's a quote.
What's that a quote from?
Oh, from when Palpatine is talking to Anakin Skywalker, and he says, like, have I ever told you the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And then he says, no. He says, I figured not. It's not a story the Jedi would tell you. Oh. And then he tells him about you can use the dark side to cheat death. But it's a little famous quote. Anytime I hear, have I ever told you the story of, I just always think of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
One day, we were at the dad pad, speaking of being on the dad pad on LSD, and Steve and I, Rihanna's boyfriend, and if you saw the team meeting episode and saw Rihanna, you would know, you can tell just by looking at her, she's never done LSD, not once. So Steve and
she's done it 100 times.
Steve and I are on acid. I think I told the story on a past episode about Dave Waite discovering that he had been projecting dadness on people for months, and
I'm
then
the dad.
Mushrooms. He's like, oh no, I've been a dad this whole time. And so like a few weeks after that, I think that was in the last tripping episode, a few weeks after that, where Steve and I are on acid in the living room, and Dave's not on acid, but he just wanted to be in on the fun or whatever, and he's doing weird Dave Waite dances and stuff, and he's like, I need to maybe I should take dancing lessons. We're like, what? Okay. And then we had this realization. He was doing this 1 year Dave thing at the time where every week the internet voted on some new habit that he should try to do, like not eat.
I remember 1 year Dave.
Yeah. And we were on acid, and
that's like Tamagotchi. That takes me back.
we were like, I was just like, no, Dave, you've been asking other people how to be you. You should, in the next year, you should teach people how to be you. You shouldn't take dancing classes. You should be teaching people how to dance like you because you're amazing at it. And that's the sort of insights that psychedelics should have for you. And I was able to see it for another person. So there was that wonderful moment. And then Steve and I decided we were going to go for a hike. So we called an Uber. And I don't know if I told this story, if you've heard me tell it elsewhere before. We call an Uber. It's supposed to arrive in like 5 minutes. It's going to take us to this hike. It's taken like 20 minutes. We're like, whatever. What is time anyway? Who cares? It was a really nice day out. This is in LA. The Uber finally arrives, and this like Asian dude in his like 80s, like so old, like maybe 90s, he jumps out of he pulls over, he jumps out of the Uber, and he just goes, "You are my very first Uber ride." And we're like, yes. And we're high-fiving him and stuff. And we're on acid, and we get to be, and he can barely speak. That was like the only English that he knew. And like his grandson or something.
That's divine intervention right there.
Yeah. And Steve's at the passenger
I didn't
seat.
go into this episode thinking of divine intervention, but there it is.
I'm in the back seat, and he starts driving, and it's like a lot of a lot of starting and stopping, and he has to make a U-turn and stuff, and I'm like, is this guy just a bad driver? Oh, first he's like, "Where are you going?" And we're like, "Oh, I put it in the app already. I put it in the," like, he can't communicate, and he's like, "Oh, he doesn't know how to use the app. It's his first time doing this," and his phone is in Mandarin. So I'm on acid trying to help an elderly man who's fun. I've never been on the other side of Uber. I've never driven Uber, so I don't know what to hit or anything. And it's all in a different language. So literally.
Did you know that, or did you think that you were hallucinating? I was
like, is this really happening? Yeah. And then finally I was like, hit that big green button on the bottom. I bet that seems about right. That's a green light.
Oh.
And it works. And then he is trying to do a U-turn and stuff. And then he starts driving, and it's just a lot of, oh. And I'm like, oh man, is driving always like this? Am I tripping? And I'm like, are you? And then I look, and his car was so weird. It was like it was like some car from the like 80s or something. And it was, I just never been in a car like it. It was really strange. And I was like, are you in drive, or are you in first gear? Like, I don't know the situation. I don't know who set him up with this car, who set him up with the app to just like set their grandfather or great grandfather out driving Uber or whatever.
Seems sketch.
And he's so happy, and we're excited, but I don't want him to get on the interstate in first gear if that is the case, so that he's in like first or second gear. And so I'm like, are you? And he can't understand what I'm saying, and I'm trying to like get through, and I'm asking Steve to, but even there wasn't like a D or anything. It was like a foreign car as well, that all the symbols were different. And finally I asked him, I'm like, oh, stop here at the stop sign. And we stop, and I'm like, Steve, can you just see if he's in drive? Can you just like use? And so Steve just like starts switching around the gears, which are also in this weird figuration that we hadn't seen before. And then we start driving again, and it turns out that like he was just a two-footed driver, like someone that just has a foot on the brake the whole time, you know? So it's like, oh. And he was just like nervous because it was his first Uber ride or whatever. And he was in drive, but, and we just were fucking with his transmission for no reason whatsoever. And he was just acting totally cool with it because, like, as far as this guy knows, this is how Uber works. It's just like two fucking white guys on acid get in your car and start messing around with your trans.
Yeah, you have an app too, and your app is telling you to push that green button and move it from drive to first gear. And yeah, you're doing your part.
It was amazing. And when we finally got there, man, we tipped him so well. He was so happy. You know, we just gave him like all of the money that we had in our wallets and everything. It was
it's worthless in that state.
Yeah. So there's a fun
it's paper.
LSD
you can't eat it.
story.
Plus, I don't even need food.
So everybody, if you want to hear the last, the final Head Talks, the show that was interrupted by a global pandemic, and you'll get to meet Sophia Rockland, who's just
created by Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci,
and incredible communicator. You can get her book ahead of time, or you'll be able to get it at the camp out as well. Please go to mindunderpod.com and go to the campout section and put your email in. And as soon as we have tickets available, we'll send you an email along with the many other things that I'm putting together, which we'll be sharing in future episodes. And if you
one lucky person will get a golden ticket, and we don't know what that golden ticket does yet. It might do nothing. It might even make it a worse experience for you. But the thing for sure is there's one that's gold. Go on. I just made up that rule.
Well, you just have me thinking. It's not a bad idea.
No, it's going to happen. I just don't know what the ticket does yet. There's a gold one.
It becomes your camp out. After the camp out, you're just like, and this is yours now.
Yeah.
This is your camp out.
Yeah, if you prove your morality.
yeah. If you don't eat all of the bubble gum. You prove your
ethical fortitude.
Yeah, if you don't drink all of the mead and eat all of the honey or whatever, like weird stuff that we do that is the equivalent of a candy factory. All right, so that's the psychedelic episode. Ramin's on a time crunch, so we got it. This is perfect timing anyway. We got a fully in.
Yeah.
And anything else that we need to plug? If you aren't on Patreon, get the heck on there. But if you're like, I can't afford Patreon right now, I don't. Not even $5 to get my own episode, but I just want this Discord link to find out more about the camp out. Hit us up on the Mind Under Matter Instagram page, and we'll send you a link to the Discord, which is usually only available on Patreon. But it's a really fun, cool community on there, and we're sharing a bunch of cool ideas about the camp out on there as well. Check that out. Thanks for listening to us blabbing about psychedelics. I hope you have a wonderful bicycle day on Too Easy Tuesday, and until next time,
keep on salivating, honeys. Ding. Ding.